And whenever we're ready.
Okay, hi everybody. Welcome to the Northwest Community Police Council meeting for the month of February. We have a very exciting and packed agenda. So the topic for tonight is, why do so many offenders end up back in incarceration? What are the issues and challenges faced by the incarcerated who are trying to reintegrate into society? So we have three amazing speakers that are gonna discuss this topic. But first, let's call the meeting to order, which is done. Can I get a motion for the approval of January minutes?
It's Dr. Stephanie Mack. I move that we accept the January meeting minutes as printed.
Thank you. May I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Rachel. Okay, and then can I get a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
I move we approve tonight's agenda.
Thank you, Karen. Do I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Okay.
And to our guest tonight, if I made something wrong on the agenda, I apologize if it's not exactly the way it's written. So let me just apologize for that now, okay? Go ahead, Marcella. Sorry to interrupt.
That's okay, Kelly. Thank you. Okay, so our first speaker is correct me, Edenfield?
Edenfield
Yes.
Suite.
Edenfield Suite. Okay, just making sure. Okay, so first we have Ann Edenfield Suite, who Dr. Stephanie Mack is going to introduce. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. It is my pleasure to introduce our first speaker. Ann Edenfield Sweet is the director and founder of Wings for Life International, which is a nonprofit here locally, a foundation that transforms lives and breaks the circle of incarceration, helping with support services, all kinds of community outreach and programs, both online, virtual, and in person, and reaching and spanning the globe, traveling in prisons and just bringing life and hope to those who have been incarcerated. So she's going to talk tonight about recidivism and returning citizens and other topics of interest in regard to incarceration. It's my pleasure. Ann Edenfield Sweet.
Okay, well, I'll pull up a PowerPoint and let's see who could share. Okay, all panelists, is that gonna allow me in? Yep, there it is. And let's pull this up and we'll get started here. Yeah, and I really am. Are you guys seeing this? Are you seeing it?
Yes.
Okay, good. Because
Yes.
I'm getting a weird screen. So let me pull it over and let me pull it up so it's full screen for you guys. Yeah, I'm doing a panel discussion on a movie tonight. PBS is doing. So Kelly was very kind and I said, if I could be first, because I've got to be ready to go for that too. Why am I not getting from the beginning? Let's see. Are you guys seeing a full screen now?
Yes, perfect.
You're seeing the full screen.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to talk fast then. Our mission is transforming the lives to reduce the generational cycle of incarceration. I started Wings because my first husband, who is an international airline captain, ended up going to prison. And I realized there was no one there to really help the families. And so it's all about opening doors, opening hearts. I ended up writing a book because even though at one point I had been well respected by life, now I'm the wife of an inmate, and I was thrown into a world that I really didn't know. I didn't know the language. Now, most of the people that we're dealing with incarceration, it's just part of this family history. And that's all they expect. They're going to grow up and go to prison like everybody else. But for me, it was such a totally different thing. And he went to prison way back in 1987. And there was no book, if you can imagine, at that time in the library. We had just become computerized. I went to the Albuquerque Public Library and I could finally type in families of prisoners, 2 articles. That's all I could find on death row inmates. We were an isolated, unknown entity that represents, and you're going to see some statistics, a huge amount of the population. So there are people behind incarceration. These are my 4 boys. And I needed a family photo for the book cover. I put a house and I put bars because we were arrested and no one was there to help us. And so I thought maybe I'm uniquely qualified and I could help people. Well, over the years, we've won all kinds of awards and I'm proud of that because working with families of prisoners sometimes, and we won these Charity Navigator, Give with Confidence, and Platinum Transparency. We try to be so transparent because everybody that we're working with has broken the law. And when you're a family member, you're also judged. Like you're lumped together, like every crime that any prisoner ever did, you now carry that burden and your children do too, to the public. So anyway, here are some of the awards. Actually, we won the National Award of Excellence in Crime Prevention with the American Probation and Parole Association for the whole country one year. And then we've won some of these other awards. So I started Wings in 1995. I'm not going to talk about the family days that we do in prisons. They are so much fun. If you guys ever want to go to prison, I promise I'll take you there. I promise I'll bring you back. But we actually do. We call them parties. Now we call them family days. It really doesn't matter. It's fun. And we know that 95% of prisoners are going to get out. So are they going to get out worse or better? And so if we could start rebuilding that family relationship, that's what it's all about. And then in 2005, I was doing other things, but in 2005, I said, I am uniquely qualified to help people. So I started with what we call Wings for Life, and the life stands for life skills imparted to families through education. I've done work in 20 states now, internationally, India, from one end to India to the other, every prison in Kenya. I'm one of 4 white women. I brought a team of Americans over there, and we brought the Kenyans into their prisons. They weren't even allowed to go into prisons. We have an active program in Liberia, and I talk to Raymond almost every day. You could find all of our programs now. We've got over 100 tape programs on YouTube, Facebook, and we do our weekly Zoom. So I'll talk about that here in a second. So here is our program, Wings for Life, our educational program, every Monday night from 6 to 7. Now, of course, it's been by Zoom. But actually, this has ended up being a real blessing for us because we not only can get into the prisons, we're the only organization that the New Mexico Corrections Department allows to have inmates seeing each other. Mitch, you'll get a kick out of this. They can actually see and talk to each other in our breakout rooms. And it's just absolutely amazing. I mean, of course, prior to COVID, this never would have been allowed. And so now we can do that and we can help people. But now we've got all these tape programs and we're finding out that prisons around the country are starting to use our programs. An inmate just came back to Albuquerque a couple of weeks ago. He was in a federal prison in Arizona. I didn't even know they're using our programs as incentives. And I know because I work tons, I work in Ohio, that one of the wardens for sure is using our programs and probably others are there too. So we highlight 4 things. We teach manners, life skills. We of course talk together and we do group mentoring. What I've found out over the years is one-on-one mentoring is really difficult. So we do group mentoring. So if I'm not there one night, other people are. And of course, we're always addressing ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. And I think you all know what ACEs are. I don't have to talk about that. Why what we're doing is so important. And I didn't know your overall theme about why people are recidivating. But let me go over some of these statistics and it'll help you understand why they recidivate. First of all, 1 out of every 2 adults in America, so just look at our screen here, 1 out of every 2, and I'm one of them, have had or will have an immediate family member in prison or jail. Children of prisoners, when I started doing this 27 years ago, it was 1 out of 3 children of prisoners going to prison. It's gone, I've seen it in writing, up to 72% on national calls right before Christmas. Top people in the corrections department, we're talking about 83% of children of prisoners ending up in prison. Who knows exactly what it is? It's way too much. And we are trying to stop that cycle. Currently in America, look at this, 1 out of every 3 Americans today have a criminal record. Who would have guessed? This is America. And 1 out of 3 have a criminal conviction. So anybody that's out in the job workforce, any business that you go to, almost any single business, you're going to find somebody that has a criminal history. And so people will say, do you put a list of all the employers together? I say, no, they don't want to have their name on the list. You don't want to say, oh, go to ABC Business because they hire all the convicted felons and all the bad guys. No, they don't want to advertise, but really basically almost anybody will hire people. And so we teach people, how are you going to get hired? Because you do have this criminal record. Of course, well, now the old statistic was 50% of the at least 2.5, and I've seen it as high as 2.7 million children now in America that have parents in prison. But of course, they never visited their parents before. And during COVID, nobody has had that chance to do that. Of course, we spend way too much money. You know, all the ethnicities. And the key number 8 point for me is that 95% of all prisoners are going to get out. Are they getting out better? Are they getting out worse? And if we don't help them, because they go to prison to become expert criminals, because they're around the master criminals. And so if we don't provide positive programming for them and something to change that direction, now we are putting them into a PhD program of how to become a better prisoner. Well, in our program for 14 years, while we were meeting in person, we had a 4% recidivism rate. Tragically, and listen to this one, the national recidivism rate on a 9-year study, it means for 9 years, if somebody goes to prison, 83% go back. Why do they go back? Mitch is going to talk about why they go back. A lot of it, though, is just kind of nonsense stuff. You know, they were late for an appointment. They missed this meeting. They were late for this one. Maybe they had a dirty UA. I mean, how many people that are in addiction recovery, if they aren't in prison, have a little relapse? We've got to help people and give them opportunities and train them in a different way so they don't go back. I am proud to say that for 100% of our youth, if they came 10 times or more within a calendar year, we tracked them, every one of our kids progressed to the next grade. That meant we had no dropouts whatsoever. So all of our children, basically, they are all children of prisoners. None of them dropped out. And of course, we know if they drop out, that's going to be the problem. And we have not had any of our teens that attended 10 or more meetings ever be pregnant. So we're really proud of our program because we are making a difference for these folks. And I've got actually a proposal into our legislative session. I'll find out in a couple days if we've got money to expand our program to different communities around the state. Now that we have TAPE programs, people can show the TAPE program, and then all the curriculum is already written and they could start doing this in other parts of the state. And we've got to stop crime. And where do you start with it? You start with the children and the families and the caregivers who are raising these kids. We have great-great-grandparents that are 60 years old. They were 15-year-old moms, 30-year-old grandmothers, whatever. They're now 60, raising their great-great-grandchildren. They didn't know any more then than they did when they were 15. We have got to educate them because that's where the change happens. We have intentionally focused themes at Wings for Life. Money, of course, we got to teach people about money. When my husband, who was a 747 airline captain, went to prison, I ended up with a $3.5 million IRS lien. It lasted 15 and a half years. It was totally a race, but I had to deal with 40 IRS agents over that course of time. So I am a master. That's one thing I'm a master at. I don't have a PhD, official one, but I'm a PhD in stretching a dollar because I had to. I raised 4 boys on $800 a month when I was youth director in the church. I don't know how I did it. Work, school, jobs, and kids. We talk to the kids. Your job is to go to school. Your job is to get an education. Your job is to be helping in the family. We do parenting classes and of course, family communication and issues that are unique to incarceration. So we've helped returning citizens. Mitch, we've had one of your guys that was at Dearson. He was supposed to have mandatory 3 years in prison. He came in, he did community service with us. He kept watching and watching all of our tape programs, listening to what you do in a courtroom from the judges themselves. And he is, I'm proud to say, out on an ankle bracelet, home with his being father to 2 kids, instead of being stuck back in prison on something that now he could be productive and working and contributing back to society. Now, this is the key to what we use. We use Search Institute's developmental assets. If you don't know about them, they've been around for 32 plus years. They're out of Minneapolis, and they have tested our kids across the country. We teach at least 1 to 3 assets at every meeting, and then we give you ideas of how to build those assets. Because let me show you. Family support. If I said to any of you, if we're going to go to a breakout room, how do you build family support? I'd see muted screens. I'd see black screens. You don't want to talk because you're not sure. How do you build family support? But if I gave you 10 ideas of how to build family support, and then we said, now what else do you do? Then we have some solutions, right? We've got some tangible ways to do this. So every one of our speakers, we create something. So I'm going to get into the assets. 20 of them are external assets. They deal with support. Who's supporting people in the community? Deal with empowerment. Do they feel valued and valuable? Do they have boundaries and expectations? Do they have rules? Do they have to understand rules? We have to teach parents how to have rules. Constructive use of time. Are the kids just hanging out? Nobody's home with them? Are they running around on the weekends, or are they out till midnight on a school night? What's going on with that? Internal assets, commitment to learning, positive values, social competencies. We teach them how to sit at a dinner table, manners, how to set a table, how to talk and share, not throw food, not run, how to be polite. We teach them those social skills and a positive identity that they believe in themselves. Even though they've got somebody in prison, we can teach that. And this is how I do it. I play games, and you can go to our website and you can see some of these talks and you can share them because everything is free. But if I gave one group of you a stack of cups, you could build this pyramid that looks just like this. Now this group, they've got a pretty high pyramid. They're really proud of themselves, but it doesn't look quite so impressive as the other one, right? This poor group, I gave them a bunch of cups. Time was up, 2 minutes up. All their cups fell down. How many people have cups that can't accomplish the task? They can't build that pyramid. They can't accomplish, even though they've been given some assets, they can't do it. Then I talk about the wins of life. All of us, even for me today, I'm balancing between this and a PBS panel and work and try to get home, and now there are power outages across Albuquerque, I guess. Wins of life, but loss of jobs, new job, moving, accidents. You can read all these things. Death, and I bold incarceration. That is one of the biggest wins of life that any of us, any family, anybody can deal with. And how are we going to deal with it? So if we go back to, let me go back here for a second. If I pretend I'm the wind of life, I can't blow all these cups over. I only blow about half of them over. I get one blow. This group, what do you think I have? What happened? I knock them off the table. I knock them over. Some are going to fall on the floor. So if they had to start over again, they don't have too much. They only had 12 cups. This group had 20 cups, but because they don't have any structure there, I blow those cups right off the table. Most of that team would have to be crawling on the floor to get started. How many people come out of prison? They don't have anything. Mitch knows. They don't have anything. They don't have a cup, a plate, a fork, a phone, a sheet. Heaven forbid, a roof over their heads. Now, this group got really smart because they knew I was going group to group to group. And I took this picture about 15 years ago. And they only had 6 cups, but they put out their hands. And I said, oh my gosh, that's what we do. Now I had this visual image. We block the winds of life. We teach people, you're going to have a flat tire. You're going to have to get a job. You're going to have problems in the workplace. You're going to be late. You're going to have a baby. The baby's going to get sick. Somebody's going to get sick. COVID. Oh my gosh. And heaven forbid grandma dies. That throws everything off. Winds of life, but we better be prepared for them. Now, here are some statistics that everybody needs to know. Search Institute tested almost 7 million kids. Albuquerque 3 times our kids. I was part of the study in Albuquerque way back in the 90s. I used to do training for APS on Wednesday afternoons or low days for the schools, the principals, and all the leaders. You have to have 30 or more of these assets to cut at-risk behaviors. And look at the next bullet. No community in America do the kids, mid and high school kids, because they only test kids in school, have more than 20 assets. So our whole country is at risk. No surprise, everywhere I go, we think Albuquerque's bad, and it is bad, but I'll tell you what, we are really no worse than any other community that I've been in. And I was a flight attendant for 15 years. I've traveled the world out, and I chose to live in Albuquerque. I still choose to live here, even with all the crime. But no community has more than 20 assets for our kids. So we have to do something about it. So that's what we do about it. Now, this is my example. So if I said asset number 1, and I gave you these 8 ideas, now we're sitting at the dinner table, or we're sitting in a breakout room. Now, what else can we do? We are teaching people, giving them examples, not putting people down, not embarrassing them because they don't know how to build family assets. We're giving them examples. Dr. Seuss, Read Across America. Reading, let me talk about reading. Reading is critical. You always hear if they don't read at a certain level in 3rd grade, they're going to drop out of school. Forget dropping out of school, they're going to prison. There's a study that says 99% of the kids that don't read at a certain level, whatever that is, are going to prison. I was speaking one time, I was a keynote speaker for the American Jail Association in Dallas years ago. And I was, before I knew about ACEs, they weren't talking about ACEs yet. They weren't talking about reading, but I was, because I knew how important it was. And because my mom was a 2nd grade teacher in Michigan, and for 10 years, every 2nd grade teacher was in a study in Michigan to identify kids that they thought were going to be at risk later in life. Those teachers were at a 90% accuracy at 2nd grade teachers. So I knew how important this was. But this guy stood up in this Dallas conference. He said, I'm head of juvenile justice, our biggest prison system, is Texas. He said, I'm in charge of juvenile justice for the state of Texas. And in Texas, we start budgeting money to build prison beds because we know those kids in 3rd grade are going to prison. And they were budgeting money to build prison beds. Is that what we want for our kids? Is that how we want to look at the future of our little 2nd and 3rd graders? They're going to prison and let's build beds for them in prison. How about let's educate them? So this is what a placemat looks like. Now, when we eat at dinner in person, we have a placemat. So we have a lesson plan that they could take home. We list manners about books right here. Reading is fun. Tips about reading. If you can't read, how can you get your kids to read? How can we teach grandma who can't read? Okay, you start with the little ones. And let me just share, I've been sending emails out. I just had this speaker's talk yesterday at our Returning Citizens collaboration. It's called Work, oh dear, what's it called? I want to say workforce, and it's not workforce. If you want the link, I'll send it to you. It's a nonprofit out of Utah. They have a program for four-year-olds in New Mexico, and they have to be going into kindergarten this fall. They only have 212 kids signed up so far. In the state of New Mexico, they can take 2,120. They're giving the family a free computer, free Wi-Fi, but the kids have to read with their parents 15 minutes a day. They're finding kids can read at a 2nd grade level after they finish this. So they're going into school prepared in kindergarten, and they can read, and then they never get behind. And we've just done talks with 3 gang leaders, actually Mitch coming out of Dearson, and all 3 of them said they couldn't read, they had disabilities, they fell behind in 3rd grade, and by 4th grade, they were in gangs. 4th grade in gangs. So we could stop this, but it has to start early. Tutoring and reading is critical. Reading to the dogs. Reading to a stuffed animal is really important because you're teaching the kids to look at a book and learn what the story says. Identify the word dog or cat, and then help them to find that word. And that's how they start to read. They don't have to have a real dog, but we bring in dogs. Because then nobody is saying, oh, you dummy, you don't know how to read the book. They're learning how to read. And then they find dog at every page. Now find cat on every page, and they're starting to learn, and they can learn to read. We provide karate. Of course, we teach people, you got to give back. You can't just take, so we give back, keep Albuquerque beautiful. We do after dinner crafts for our kids, plenty of room for volunteers. I'm hoping by July 1st, we'll be back to in-person meetings. We're sitting around the table. You can see families eating together, set at a properly set table, learning dinner manners, talking about the things that are on the placemat. Of course, we give away all kinds of clothes. We teach people how to have pick out secondhand clothes. I haven't had real clothes since my husband went to prison all these years ago. So we teach people, how do you find your designer clothes that I like to wear, but I pick them up at yard sales and garage sales, and people can come free to Wings. And then we have a fashion show. Everybody wants to start school in new clothes or new clothes going back to work. Where do they get them? They could come to us, or we'll help them. We'll teach them how to do it. Of course, we collaborate with everybody. Now, here are some new contracts that we have. We are doing what I call our LIFT workshops, life skills for youth, families, and training. It's our same Wings for Life educational programming. We are actually allowed to go in person into the juvenile facilities. Actually, I have to change this because in January, they closed down Camino. All the kids now in Albuquerque are either at YDDC or J. Paul Taylor down in Las Cruces. We have less than 100 kids in our program now. I just talked to somebody in Florida today. They have over 5,000 juveniles in the juvenile system in Florida. We have less than 100, but our 100 kids, they are the toughest and the roughest of the kids. Now, Dr. Stephanie Mack is one of our instructors for our LifeWise family workshops. These are contracted workshops, but they're open to everybody. CYFD did not want their name on this because nobody wants to talk to probation parole officers, and they don't want to talk to CYFD officers either. These workshops are for the CARA unit. CARA stands for Comprehensive Addiction Recovery Act. This is a federally funded program that CYFD runs. Anybody that has fetal alcohol syndrome, shaken baby syndrome, if any woman delivers a baby in a hospital and they find drugs or alcohol in her system or the baby's, they go into this CARA program. And so our workshops are offered Tuesday, Thursday, Saturdays. Stephanie does the Tuesday night. We have another PhD, you might know, Emily Salazar. She used to head up Job Corps years ago, that she did all the writing of curriculum for Job Corps nationally. And then she worked at Molina when she came back here to New Mexico, and now she's retired, but working with us. And then we have a motivational speaker on Saturday. So what we do is CYFD picked the top speakers that they wanted to address these 8 topics. So we have these 6 8-week sessions that are offered 6 times throughout the year. They're totally free. Certificates are given out to everybody after they attend. They can hand them into CYFD, probation, parole, Mitch. Any of your guys could be listening to all of these talks. They could learn how the top leaders for SNAP TAN of WIC in the state are there. The top housing experts from, it should be Blue Cross Blue Shield, Western Sky, and Presbyterian. Their top leaders that head up their housing departments are the speakers for those. We've got community support workers, CPSWs, OPRI. All of their speakers are, and the top speakers about healthy parent relationships that CYFD has, and self-care tips about COVID during and after COVID. So top speakers. And of course, then we have our wonderful facilitators who can help people after they've watched and listened to the experts, and then they help them. And Stephanie can talk about that in a second. Now, Mitch, this is what we've just hired one of your guys to do. We are starting WingsWorks, and I'm cautiously optimistic that we might be getting some funding to start to have money for a building. And our goal will be to have a building in the next year or 2 to house WingsWorks and our Wings office and our job training program. We have somebody that's given us her 35-year business, craft business. She's a wholesaler, and she sells to stores from Denver to San Diego, Old Town, Santa Fe, Sedona, you name it, about 250 stores. and she's giving us her business. So we're going to train returning citizens how to make her stuff, put them through a job training program. It'll be a 4-month job training program. We're going to help them to identify what jobs do they want to do. If they're artists, then they could start creating their own, and then they will become a wholesaler. And we've got one guy, a Native American from the Navajo Nation, and we've got his artwork now, kind of the corner of the horse. You can see that blue horse in the middle photo. He now has more orders than he said he ever thought he'd have in a lifetime. They don't now have to set up marketing. They don't have to try to go hang out in a flea market or a craft fair or whatever. They don't have to do their own website. We're going to do it for them. We'll take 10%, and the stores take even a huge hit. We'll be their facilitator. We'll put it all out for sale, and they could go home and make their artwork. So we're going to be doing this. If anybody, Mitch, anybody that you know, or anybody that you all on this call know about positive, want to get working in the solar field, the owner of Positive Energy Solar is trying to work with us and wants to hire a job advocate that will be an advocate for the returning citizen and to work with their staff so people don't fall through the cracks. Right now, we know that as soon as we get back in person, Bernalillo County is going to allow and encourage all the youth, so that the hundreds and hundreds that we used to have in prison are not incarcerated right now. They are on juvenile probation, but out in the community. If they attend our live programs only 5 times, they're going to close their case. They know that we could do more with these youth and their families, because these kids can't drive because they're underage. So grandma, that caregiver, has to bring them, and they're going to close their case if they come 5 times to our program, because they know that we're going to do more than probation and parole can do with them. We've got our Zoom programming going around the world now. Facebook Live. Last year we had 12,000 devices that logged into our 43 programs, and of course everything is on YouTube, and every day that YouTube channel grows. We've got prisons, halfway houses that are using our programs, and our goal is to have Wings programming, actual programming in all 50 states, and even many more foreign countries. So we're all about connecting lives and strengthening relationships, and here is my contact information. So there you go. I talk fast. Now, if you've got any questions, I don't know how much time you've got. I've got a little bit of time if you've got time. Otherwise, if you need me to go for the other speakers, I can go. So let me stop. Did everybody get the contact information if you need it? I'll get out of here then and stop the share of the screen. And there you go. So if you have any questions, and Stephanie can certainly talk because she is one of the facilitators for our LifeWise. We call them LifeWise. These folks are very streetwise, that they're not smart about life at all. So they're called LifeWise family workshops, trying to teach them about life and how are they going to be smart enough to get out of prison and stay out and become productive citizens. So there you go. So are there any questions at all?
First of all, I'd just like to thank you, Ann, for coming on tonight. That was a brilliant presentation. I learned a lot. And I think the thing that stuck with me is how important reading is, because you don't think of something that simple, especially now in the digital era, being so important to a kid's later life. You figure, oh, you can make it up in other ways. You can text to talk your messages, and everything is in the digital world. So I really didn't know that, and I appreciate that. And we don't have any questions right now, but I'd just like to say, what would help you as far as what information can we get out to the Northwest community? There's 50 or 35 people here tonight that would help you and your organization.
Well, it's not what would help. Well, sure, we always need volunteers. If we get this building, that I can't announce anything yet because I'm waiting to hear, but my guess is we are going to have a building. And if we get that building, and I have more confirmation today, so if we get that building, it's going to take a while. I need help finding a building, planning what's going to go into that building. We're going to go out to Homeboy Industries out in California, and we're going to see about maybe a kitchen program, because when we provide dinner, why not have a kitchen where our folks are learning how to cook, maybe catering, and go out and do catering. Of course, we're going to have our studio for all the artwork. Somebody has already given us $12,000 worth of picture framing equipment. So, and somebody that's donating is going to teach people how to do framing. So we're going to teach people how to be framers. We're going to be cheaper than Hobby Lobby or anybody else. So it'll train people to go work for other companies or work for us. And do picture framing. If you don't know how talented inmates are, they are some of the most creative artistic types that I've ever seen in my life. You come to our office and you can see how creative they are of cardboard and popsicle sticks and what they make. It's just absolutely incredible. And we give them real tools, real paint, real canvas, real kilns, real sewing machines, real whatever. So we're going to need help with that. We'll probably have after dinner tutoring programs for kids. Maybe we'll offer karate and maybe other classes. I'd like to try to find, if we're given a home, I want to open it up to other nonprofits that are maybe doing something that we don't need to do. We are going to need to have money to hire a social worker, a housing expert, and somebody that really works closely with anybody that comes in our door about getting them into the jobs and walking them through. We've hired 2 returning citizens that are going to run this program because they know better than anybody else the problems that they're encountering. And one has been a marketing expert for one of the top jewelers in the world that has won numerous awards around the world. She gave us a pair of earrings worth $32,500. And one year we got that amount of money for those earrings. And he knows how to market that stuff. So we're going to be marketing all this inmate art. And on our website, on a New Wings Works website, but then they don't have to do it. We're going to need help there. But basically the big thing is get the word out about these free programs. People can watch on YouTube. They can just go there and learn all these things. Why are we not helping these families? Why are we not helping these kids? If you want to help us and we get back in person, there are a million ways you can do it. You can help us this weekend. We got a guy that rebuilds bikes. Oh, we're going to have a bike shop. And so we'll teach people how to do the bikes. The New Mexico Ramp Project, they really need a bigger home. We're going to provide the Ramp Project because they teach all the carpentry skills, how to cut, how to saw, how to hammer, how to measure. So we'll have the New Mexico Ramp Project. And then people will be able to get community service going out and putting out ramps for people, but they're learning the skills. Anything that anybody can imagine that could go into this building, it's going to be a gift to us. And if it's coming to us, then we have to do the best, be the best stewards of what's been given to us to be the best for the community. And so anyway, I'm going to open it up as soon as I know that for sure we have this money. I will be sending out an email and asking. Rachel's already part of that team, and Stephanie, you're recruited. You don't even know it, but you're recruited. Mitch, I'd love to have you be on that team because I want everybody in the community to help us to plan what should go into this building. And let's get a building that we have enough room that we could grow, because the first amount of money won't be enough for the vision that I have. I want this to be a one-stop shop so our people don't have to run here to there to everywhere. That's what happens. That's another huge stumbling block. They have to get on the bus, then they have to go here, then they have to go here, then they have to try to go to driver's license and do all these other things. And talk about a stumbling block. And we're working with the prison, New Mexico Corrections Department. They are working on getting IDs, machines, have actual motor vehicle certified prison staff. So when they get out of prison, they have an actual ID. And I met with an attorney several years ago. He said, well, we have to make sure we know who they are. And I said very kindly, well, I think you probably know who these people are. They probably wouldn't be behind bars. And he flushed and got really red and he was really embarrassed. Well, of course they know who these people are. They can't be putting a false person behind bars. Well, they do sometimes, but falsely accused, but they know who they're putting behind bars. So they're working on that too. So you can help me be an advocate to go out to try to help. And my goal is, because I had 4 boys, 3 of my 4 boys statistically should be in prison right now. And they are not. They are very successful businessmen. And I am thankful for that they grew up with those assets. They grew up in a faith community. Church is one of those 40 assets. And they grew up with caring people around them. And I want that for other people too.
And
So, yeah.
oh, I'm sorry. We do have a question. So
Sure.
from Jackie in the audience, where can we make donations and what is needed exactly?
Oh, well, right now, I mean, we have 2 40-foot containers full of stuff, but we've got our whole front office full to give to an APS family that's been homeless. And the community school worker is going to be coming in and picking up that stuff. They could drop it by our office. Our office is at 2015 Wyoming Suite J. I'll put it into the chat room. If they could go to our website, if they physically, if they want to make a cash donation or something, of course, we accept that. We're doing a campaign. We're calling it $10 a month for 12 months. If we could get 2,500 people, that's 300,000. We're going to need that. We've got another agency that just called us yesterday, another huge nonprofit here. I'll just say it's a hospital. So it's huge, but they're considered a nonprofit, and they have a warehouse full of furniture and fixtures. And they said, "Do you think you'll need something if you get a new building?" I said, "Yes." They said, "Well, we need to clean it out." So I think we probably have a lot of the furniture and the fixtures. We're going to need carpenters. We're going to need electricians. Somebody on our board is an architect. I said, "Carlos, you're going to work. You're going to have to help us. We're going to have to tear down walls. I want people to have ownership." Mitch, I'm going to be calling you and saying, "I need some service guys. Can they tear down a wall? Can they build another one?" I don't know. The sky is the limit here, how people can help. So if you want to be on an email list, I sent out my email, but I'll put it here too. I'll put you on our email list, and I should be announcing, I think, in the next week or so, whether we get this funding for this building. And then we are ready to go. This poor lady, Margie, who's given us her business, we are having to do, the kiln is at her house. So she's got a studio out back, but that's where we're having to do that. We can't put 10 people in our studio out back. There's not enough room. So we are getting to the point already that we're going to have to do something here pretty soon. So, for a physical space, and I don't want to just rent the space, because then, why are we throwing money away if we could have something that's our own? But I know it's not going to happen overnight either. So, but we've been around for 27 years, and I'm persistent, and I just figure we're going to keep making it work, and we're going to make it work. So I put the office address into the chat. I put my email in there. I'll put our website in there too, if you want to go to the website, because Mitch, I'm finding out that the guys can't get into our website to watch any of those videos. If you could figure out how they could get in to watch those videos, I guarantee they will help. We have helped so many people this fall, now that we've started using those videos for training, and they have avoided going back to prison on the technicalities, because they've learned how to maneuver and how to work with probation officers, court systems, and it's education. If people have never been taught these things and all they know is how to be a criminal, they don't even know how to dress. They don't know how to act. They think wearing gang gear and looking tough, and the ladies with the sexy low tops going to court to support their boyfriends. No, they're going to get a higher sentence because of that, but they don't know that. We have to educate these people. So that's what we try to do. So I know you've got to go. You got all those other great speakers, and I probably have to go to this panel discussion. Rachel knows all about it. She is one of our fantastic speakers that you can hear. Stephanie was one of our fantastic speakers. You can hear her talking about the importance of education and reading, and they know all about us. So I just appreciate you all. And I wish I could go to all these meetings. I just can't, because I'm just so overwhelmed with all the stuff that I'm trying to do. But I applaud you. I will go meet in person with you if you want. I'll do anything that I can to help. I'll go speak at any other organizations that you've got, or I'll send somebody out. We've got to make change, and we can make that change because we change lives.
Thank you, Ann.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
That was amazing. So Rachel, if you want to introduce our next speaker, Angel Garcia.
Okay, so Angel, I have heard about you for years and years and years. I don't know you. I don't know that I've ever met you, but Angel is the Social Services Coordinator for the City of Albuquerque Violence Intervention Program. And I'm going to just let him tell you what all that means, Angel, but welcome and thank you for being here.
Thank you guys for having me. So the Violence Intervention Program is a public health approach to addressing gun violence using a public health lens, meaning that we are addressing the underlying root causes of why people do what they do. So a little background on how I got hired for that position. I myself am a returning citizen. I moved here from Los Angeles, California in October of 2017 after I got out of prison. I'm fortunate enough to have had an uncle who's a professor at UNM that allowed me to come out here. So as soon as I got here, he made me go to college. That was one of the conditions for me to live in his house. I had to go to CNM. So as I was at CNM, you know, just things started happening for me. I started getting more involved. I joined a committee to help. We implemented a resource center for students with criminal records. You know, along that journey, I met Mitchell. I joined his community advisory board. I used to go to his meetings pre-COVID before we got shut down. And so through my involvement, I got an email from the city one day that they were researching this new program and there might be an employment opportunity for me. So they interviewed me, and from what I hear, I beat out 4 other candidates and they gave me the job. So now I get to use my past experience to help people in the community that that I've walked in their shoes. So the way we find our candidates are through shooting review meetings. I don't attend these meetings because I'm strictly social services, but the program manager goes to a meeting every Thursday morning with APD, the FBI, ATF, the DA's office, all the law enforcement partners from Albuquerque, and they discuss the shootings from Wednesday to Wednesday. And then from there, they compile a list of the candidates they feel would benefit from me going out there and talking to them. If people are under investigation, then we don't go out and talk to them. So what an intervention looks like is pretty much us offering them the opportunity to get out of the cycles of violence, get out of the cycles of addiction, allowing us to send them to treatment or help them find a job, whatever that may look like. And one thing that New Mexico has that I don't, that I never saw in California, and that I feel that it's the awareness of this is growing, are community peer support workers. Community peer support workers or community health workers are all people in recovery, returning citizens who get to use their past experience to help others, such as Anne was saying a little while ago, because they've been there and they've done that, they know what it's like. So when I first got here, I got hired by Lowe's, I got hired by Home Depot, I got hired by this call center that was paying $25 an hour. And the same result, 2 weeks later, I get another call. We're sorry, Mr. Garcia, we have to rescind our offer of employment because you did not pass the background check. So as a returning citizen, had I still been in California, in Los Angeles, I would have probably been back in prison already. I would have gave up. I would have been, to hell with this. Why am I even trying if nobody's gonna give me the opportunity? But since I was stuck in Albuquerque with no money to go back to Los Angeles, I had to keep trying. So I worked until I got this job. I worked as a cook at Buffalo Wild Wings from 5 p.m. to 2 a.m. For those 6 months, I hated chicken, couldn't stand it anymore. I got a job at NORC at the call center, and then this opportunity happened for me. So now we all know the struggles that returning citizens face. We've all heard it before, and last year when I joined the legislative session last year for public comment on trying to get felons their voting rights back, one of the legislators said, well, probation and parole is the time for that person to rehabilitate themselves, and then after successful completion, we restore their voting rights. And that is a factual statement, but what that legislator is unaware of is that returning citizens are not given the tools by probation and parole to reintegrate back into society. It's come check in next month, piss in this bottle, and oh, you're dirty, you're going back to jail. But never, hey, look, here's a big old list of employers that hire that are felon friendly. Here is Wings for Life, Here is the Women's Reentry Center. These organizations, there's no resources for people. So if you don't give a person a direction, they're always going to go on the path that they know, which is usually back to the hood, back to drugs, back to their friends. So how do we change that? With these CPSWs, because I've seen in my work, I got certified myself. So now I take it upon myself. It's my responsibility now. And yeah, I'll carry this burden. Anybody that needs my help, that needs direction, that needs me to hold their hand, I try to show them where the resources are at. I got an aunt that just got out of federal prison, and she was one of Mitchell's residents for about a week until they allowed her to go home on a monitor. So now, I'm spoon feeding her all the resources, and I'll do that for anybody in the community. And I've met a whole bunch of people who are in the same position as me, who have learned the resources, who have been in prison, who know how the system works, and who are willing to go the extra mile to help somebody stay out of jail, and I'll put my contact information in the chat. If you guys know anybody who's struggling or who needs help, if I myself don't have the answer, I have a whole network of people who might. And that's the important thing, all of us working together. And we know we can't help everybody. And I personally know that even though that people are going to change or want to change at their own pace and when they're ready. It doesn't matter how inspiring my story is, or they're not going to do it until they're well and ready. So my goal is just to plant seeds. Hey, I'm here for you. Whenever you need me, here's my number, call me. And it's happened 6-7 months down the line. I get the phone call, hey, you said you could help me with this. Is that true? Can you still help me? Yeah, come to my office. Or where are you at? I'll go pick you up. Are you hungry? I'll buy you something to eat. Have you ate? But yeah, so being a returning citizen is it's hard. It's hard when you're not given the opportunities, So also right now I'm trying to put together an expungement clinic, so that we can expunge as many cases as we can, and then this will alleviate some of the stress on some of the people out there. A lot of people don't know that they qualify for expungement. So we wanna hold the clinic that's gonna teach them after this much time, this crime could come off your record and you'll have a better opportunity for a better job. Or you might be able to rent an apartment somewhere else other than the international district, you know? So these are all things, now that I'm a city employee, that um that I try to put on for the community, because I know it's necessary. And the little power that I have, I try to use it to try to help as many people as I can, you know? And that's another thing that I feel is my responsibility. Never in my wildest dreams did I ever think I'd be a government employee. But now that I am, I have to use that power to help the community. You know, the opportunities that were given to me, I have to try to create as many of them as I can for the people in the community as well. Just the other day, Tuesday, what's today, Wednesday? Yeah, yesterday morning. Um, this is like how, once I realized it, this is how I use my power. I reached out to the U.S. attorney. I'm working with a family right now, a 17-year-old kid who has 5 detention referrals. The last 3 were getting more violent than the next. With my colleague, she couldn't be here tonight, Renee Chavez Maez. She's another resource guru and person in recovery, awesome person out here in Albuquerque as well. When she came on, the dynamic changed and we were able to work, me with the son, her with the mother and the daughter. So now we're working with this whole family. We have the sister and the mom employed. I have the kid in a GED program at CNM, and the older brother is in federal custody. Turned 21 yesterday, and I reached out to the U.S. attorney and I explained to him the situation. Hey, look, we've been working with this family, but when this guy gets out, we don't want all of our work to be for nothing. He's a major influencer of his family, so we got to get to him as well. How can we visit him? They brought him from the federal holding to the U.S. attorney's office, and they allowed me to visit with him. And it's crazy how it all happened. Yesterday just so happened to be his birthday. They allowed me to buy him a McDonald's breakfast, and I little skinny kid, you know, like maybe about 100 pounds soaking wet, in federal prison already, because he was very violent growing up. And so now they allowed me to work with him. Now I'm engaging with him. So now there's hope. I'm giving him the direction that he needs for when he gets out. He knows where to go instead of just back to his homeboys and back to the hood. He knows that there's resources out here. There's people who are going to be willing to give him a second chance. So and I think the number of returning citizens that are getting involved, who are getting certified as community peer support workers, is growing here in Albuquerque. And many of us have got cleared to go work in the prisons. And all this is because of Ann too. Ann helped me get my application pushed through, and she got me my pass to go into prisons. You know, I asked to only work with the gang members and the most violent. That, you know, surprise, surprise, they've been on lockdown because of all the stabbings and all that. But once it opens up, they're gonna let me go in there and work with them, because I want to give them a sense of direction. When you come home to Albuquerque, just know there's all these resources. You can reach out to me. There's no need for you guys to go back, pick up a gun, start selling drugs. I can get you guys employed. So really, at the end of the day, it's all about the encouragement and support that we give people coming out of prison. That's going to determine whether they go back or not. Because and then ultimately, yeah, you know, like we've all heard the saying, we can walk the horse to water, but we can't make them drink. And yes, that's true. That's true, you know, but I don't think anybody is a lost cause. You know, I was in my 30s when I decided to change. You know, everybody does it at their own pace. So so I feel very hopeful, you know, that there's a lot of us working together and trying to tackle this issue of recidivism. thank you guys for allowing me to be here tonight.
Thank you, Angel. Let me ask you one quick question, if I can. Obviously, you're from South Central Los Angeles, right?
Yeah.
And it's a rough environment, very tough. You were telling me some things, and you have some friends who you grew up with who probably keep falling back into the same pattern. What do you think is the difference between you and some other people?
So I think for me, it's just, content. I guess a lot of my homeboys, they're just happy just being there in the hood, getting high and that's all they know. But also, I also have to recognize that I've always had this uncle who went off to college, when and during his summer breaks would come back down to Los Angeles and take us to the Rose Garden at USC, the La Brea Tar Pits, the what's that place called? The Griffith Observatory, all these museums. He'd buy us books. So when I'd be in prison, he'd always send me these books as well, like the teachings of the Buddha, philosophy, the Buddhist that just died, Thich Nhat Hanh. He sent me books on him, and the more I read them, just the little voice kept getting louder. Like, there has to be more to life than this. Some people don't have that type of support or encouragement. Some people are never told that, hey, you can leave LA one day and have a life beyond your wildest dreams. And I've told my friends, I'm willing to help any one of you, but don't come over here with that BS. When you guys are ready, call me, and I'll do for you what was done for me. And I don't have any takers yet, but I think that's what it was. Also, like, the older I got, is just that little voice kept getting louder. Like, there's more to life. I didn't know what it was, but I knew it was out there somewhere. But I would say encouragement and support. Not very people are fortunate enough to have a PhD professor in their family to help them out.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
thank you so much. Wow, we've had such great speakers. Thank you. So, and our final speaker is Mitch Anderson. He is the director of Dismas, is that how you pronounce it? Charities, which is a halfway house for ex-offenders who are returning to society. So thank you, Mitch.
Thanks for having me. I'm going to share my screen too, so I can get my PowerPoint going.
Right.
All right, I shared the correct one, right? You guys are seeing just the slide. All right, cool. So yeah, Dismas Charities. So we're the actual term is a residential reentry center. So halfway house kind of has the stigma that our clients are allowed to kind of come and go as they please, and that's not the case. Because we're contracted with the Federal Bureau of Prisons, we have to maintain accountability at all times. So technically, even though our clients are out in the community, they're technically still behind the wall, if you want to think of it that way. So they're sent here though, so they have that access to the community, so they can do things like look for work. We require them to open and maintain an active savings account, and we help reintroduce them to their family to make sure that that's still a viable release option. And if not, we help them look for alternative housing, whether it's a sober living home or another family member or something, help them save up money so they can establish their own residence, be self-sufficient. So yeah, I always like to say we're a residential reentry center. No, that's less scary sounding than halfway house, or way back in the day we were called community correction center. That's kind of scary sounding for some people too. So, but yeah, we were founded in 1964 in Louisville, Kentucky. And there was a guy named Father Dearson, I like to call him our founding father, who was working with the Knights of Columbus, and he had like 15 bunks in the back of a church. And you can check our website for the exact quote, but basically he had this philosophy of how can we expect people to move up and move on if we're constantly kicking them down? Why don't we give them a hand up so that they can get out of the situation and move on? Like I said, that was Saint Dismas is the patron saint of the repentant thief. That's the name that the church gave the repentant thief who was to the right of Jesus and called out to him when they were crucified. So as it expanded west, when it came here to New Mexico in the 90s, so we have centers now. I think we have 36 centers across 13 states. And so when it came to New Mexico, there was already a Dismas Charities operating under the diocese. So that's why here locally it's called Dismas Charities. So a lot of people get us mixed up with Dismas House, and we're not affiliated with them. It's a totally different entity. So here and in Las Cruces, there's a Dismas Charities. And basically, like I said, the goal is to provide services to individuals getting out of custody, point them in the right direction. I like to really meet them where they're at and say, well, what do you need to get out of here, right? When you leave this program, I don't ever want to see you again unless it's like incidental contact at Walmart or something, right? Because that means you're still out, you're still doing well, but I don't want you to return to the program. So what is it that you need? And let's connect you to those services so you can get out and stay out. So it's a really cool opportunity where we connect people to the community so they have someone to go look to when they get out. We connect them to people like Angel so he can kind of lead them when they're done with their term with the Bureau of Prisons. And we also serve a lot of U.S. probation clients. So what they do is instead of, let's say somebody's out on supervision, instead of them being like stuck in prison where they're going to make license plates for 19 cents an hour, they can stay here or return to our program where they're going to maintain their job, they're making a living wage. And because of that, they're able to get right with child support, pay their restitution, taxes, court assessment fee, and things like that. Instead of, going back to prison where they're going to lose not only their touch of their family and things like that, but they're losing that sense of community and culture. And especially like the longer the sentence, like kind of what Ann was saying earlier, the longer the sentence, the less likely they're going to come out like a better person, right? We had an incident recently. This was pre-COVID when we were really sending people out to Walmart to do things like that, get hygiene and stuff. We had a guy go to this Walmart around the corner here on Carlisle, and he came back and said, "Hey, I had to go to the bathroom while I was there, and I went to go wash my hands, and I didn't know how to turn it on, so I just didn't." And I looked at him for a second. I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, there was no handle. It was a motion sensor, and he didn't know that you had to run your hand under it to turn it on. So there was no handles. He didn't get how to do it." And if you can't do something basic like that, how can you expect them to, get a job, maintain viable employment, pay their bills on time, balance their checkbook ledger, all this stuff that a lot of the rest of the world takes for granted. So like I said, we really try to meet them where they're at and just point them in the right direction and help them move forward and hopefully leave this chapter of their life behind them. And like what Ann was saying, and 95% of employers do return to of offenders do return to the community. And a lot of other studies show that employment is around 70% less, offenders who have gainful employment are around 70% less likely to reoffend. And that just makes sense because you have somewhere to be 40 plus hours a week. Hopefully you're earning a decent wage so that you're able to, be self-sufficient. And then that way you're less tempted to be, or less likely to be tempted to go back to stealing and dealing and whatever got you caught up in the first place. And I put this slide up here intentionally with this stack of cash and some Nissans. So I used to work at our center in Las Cruces. I worked there for about 6 years before I came up here in 2016. And I used to work pretty frequently with the Federal Correctional Institute in Anthony. And I'd go out and meet with some of the offenders who were going to come through our program. And there was one guy I met with. He kind of put a real burden on my heart. You know, I met with him and he said, "Hey, I've been down 11 years. I got 1 more year to go. My wife has been really supportive up until now. She's brought the kids to visit. She, wrote letters, emails. She put money on my books. But recently the probation office went to go check my house for a pre-release investigation. And what I assume happened is a lot of those the feelings of resentment started to boil over, because I think it became evident to her that this guy was no longer out of sight, out of mind. He was going to be returning and living with her. And she ended up filing for divorce. And he said, "Look, man, she took the house, the kids, the dog, the whole thing. And in the district in which he was releasing to, she was allowed to file her child support retroactive to when he left, which was when he got arrested 12 years prior." So he told me, "Look, dude, I don't want to get out. Like this family I have in here is the most supportive and consistent family I've ever had." He said, "I'm going to get out. I'm a felon. This was a few years ago. He's like, I'm going to make $9 an hour, probably part-time. I got to save up money to establish a new residence. And I'm $60,000 in debt in child support. That's just not realistic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to commit a new crime so I can come back here." And so when he starts talking about committing new crimes, that becomes a public safety issue. And I said, "All right, well, give me some time. I'm going to try to figure something out." So I tracked down his mom and said, "Hey, would you be willing to take him back into your house?" And she said, "Yeah, but I'm already supervising his brother. His brother was also on federal supervision for an unrelated crime." And so we had to get the judge to approve that, allowing them to live together. And they were cool about it. They said, "Yeah, I'll just assign them the same PO. They can knock out both home checks together or whatever." So I had to go back to him and say, "All right, look, dude, I found your mom. She said she'd be willing to take you back. I know you're 40 years old and you're probably not trying to live with mom, but at least you're not here, right? Think about your kids. If you get partial custody or you get some visitation or something, you can see them on your terms instead of sitting in here with somebody like me looking over your shoulder. You can go take them to, on the weekends to go shoot skee ball at Chuck E. Cheese or something. And that's better than sitting in here with, the boys in blue or whatever." So he said, "All right, I'll give it a shot." But then we had to find him a job. And he went through a couple of jobs that didn't really fit on both sides. I don't think either side was really willing to budge on some things. It wasn't a good fit. So we actually found him a job in El Paso selling brand new Nissans. So it wasn't like, sleazy used car salesman or anything like that. These were like brand new single digits on the odometer vehicles. And the guy excelled at it. He was a nonviolent drug offender. And I don't know if you guys have ever met drug dealers, but they're, as long as you don't owe them money, they're the nicest people you've ever met, because it's sales. They have a product and they count their money. And this guy was really good at it. So he sold brand new Nissans. And his first full month there, he grossed $10,000 and made the rest of us, who were working there, wondering, what the heck am I doing with my life, So anyway, long story short, he gets out, goes to his mom's house. He's working at this dealership. And by the time his supervision was done, he came back into the office to check in. And I thought it was a probation officer. I saw this dude all suited up and all, excited. And I said, "Who the heck is this guy?" And turned around and it was this, a client. I said, "Man, you're doing good." And I could tell just his attitude had changed. He had this desire to succeed again, And I'm not going to say it was all me. I mean, there's a ton of moving parts involved in getting his case to the way it was. And then that's obviously an extreme, one side of the continuum. I'm not saying everybody's that bipolar of a successful turnaround, but that's the goal. That's kind of what we're working with, is we have a lot of people who they got a lot of issues going on and you got to tackle them one at a time. But employment really is the big thing. That's really the big, I think probably the number one key to getting people to get out and stay out. And so one of the things we do when it comes to jobs is we talk about the ABCs. So the ABCs are any job, better job, career. So when you first get out, you just need a job. You need something, you know, even 10, 15 bucks an hour, whatever minimum wage is better than zero, right? But long-term, you're going to want to move your, you know, maybe you can move up in that company, or I tell them maybe just because you have a job doesn't mean you need to stop job searching. You can always find something else that's going to offer you more hours or a better schedule. And so we try to help point them in the right direction and give them the tools to do that. And then maybe you're going to get involved with like what Angel did at C&M and do some vocational upgrading, meet some people. You know, the best way to get a job is to be around those who are already working. So get yourself into a career, do something you're going to be able to retire from, right? Nobody's going to retire from being a dishwasher after 30, 40 years or whatever. So that's kind of where we meet them at and help them move forward. And it makes sense for us to want them to be able to move forward also. What I hate the most as practitioners in law enforcement and corrections is, let's say we had a guy who was working at a car wash and he was dealing drugs on the side. Which job was supplementing what, it doesn't really matter, but he's working at a car wash and he's doing drugs on the side. If he gets picked up for dealing drugs, spends 5 years in prison, gets out on supervision, and somebody like me gives him a job at a car wash because he has experience there, then the whole entire system was a disservice to this guy. I mean, we wasted 5+ years of his life and didn't make him any better than he was, and turn around and pat ourselves on the back for that. And I think that's what we really need to get as a whole need to get better at, is realizing that people do have the capacity to change, and that we should give them that opportunity and the space to be able to, you know, pull themselves up, like Father Dearson talked about in the first place. So in addition to that, we try to help our clients remain engaged as much as possible. So even when you're not working, we try to encourage them to volunteer. We do accept volunteers. So if you have some services to offer, there's a list of some of them now. We're looking for people that can do money management, any sort of parenting classes, anger management, smoking cessation. That one is more, I mean, you get a kind of a harm reduction with smoking cessation, but I'm more concerned about money, right? If you're dropping $200 or $300 a month or more on cigarettes or chewing tobacco, that you just cut that in half, and a few months later you have your deposit to get an apartment to get the heck out of here, you know? So sometimes it's not me or the court that's keeping you here. You're keeping yourself here because you're not financially stable yet. And even just doing some harm reduction when it comes to smoking can go a long way to helping your finances. So yeah, I'm a firm believer in idle hands lead to destruction. So the more we can keep them engaged and doing something positive, I think the quicker their time goes by in our program, and the less likely they are to get in trouble, which is, you know, good for me because that's a lot less work that I have to do. So it's just kind of better for everybody if they're doing something positive. So we're definitely accepting volunteers for that. You do have to undergo a background check. As I said, we are contracted with the Bureau of Prisons, so we have to do an NCIC and all that stuff. But yeah, let me know. I'll give you my contact info at the end if anybody's interested in helping volunteer with that. And so some of the other things that we do is try to attack the stigma around hiring felons. So some of the things that we try to persuade potential employers about is just kind of selling them on the idea that they're hiring a team. It's not just this person that you're hiring. There's somebody like me who's here at the center, making sure that they're up on time, they're dressed appropriately, they have reliable transportation arranged. They have to do daily breathalyzers. There's weekly drug tests. So a lot of employers, or the employers that work with us, appreciate the fact that our clients generally show up on time and they're sober. And if any of you are managers, you know that that's half the battle, is just getting people to show up and be functional. So we help them with that. And then we develop a relationship with the employer so that if there's any sort of employability issues going on, we can address that here internally and hopefully put that individual in a position where they're going to be able to keep that job. They can correct some of that behavior, do some education, and have some life talks with them, and hopefully they can maintain that job and be able to move forward. And then obviously we pass the baton on to the probation officer, and this is all federal, so we don't have any state clients. So we pass this on to the United States Probation Office. After that, there is a lot of communication with the employer. So we give the employer the opportunity to ask questions about the employee's legal status while why they're with us. And they know that prior to the first work day. And then we do an on-site verification just to make sure that the employment's legit. And we do follow-ups at least monthly thereafter to make sure that, our clients are doing what you're asked, you're showing up on time and all that stuff. And then they turn in a copy of their check stubs to verify their work hours. So if we let them out of the center to go work 40 hours a week and you come back with a 25-hour a week paycheck, what happened to those other 15 hours plus travel time? And so we have a very detailed resident accountability module where, like I mentioned earlier, it's not just a, come and go as you please sort of program. Like there's a lot of accountability and making sure that, you are where you say you're going to be and all that good stuff. A couple other things we talk about when it comes to breaking down those barriers that societies seem to put up. So one of them is the work opportunity tax credit. There's a lot of target groups that this includes, and you can obviously go to the Workforce Connection or the DOL website I listed there for some more information about that. But basically what that is within the first year of a person getting out of incarceration, the employer is eligible for this one-time tax credit where as long as this person has been employed for at least 6 months, they owe $2,400 less to employ that person. So the employee gets paid the same amount of wages, but the employer owes the IRS less money for having them on the books. And like I said, it's $2,400 per person. So especially if you're a small business, you add that up times 4 or 5, you figure out how much you're saving, then all of a sudden but employers want to hire everybody, right? Because it's cost-effective labor. One of the other things that we promote is the federal bonding program. One of those, so a lot of bonding programs or insurance companies don't want to cover people's work for the first 6 months they get out of prison because they deem them at-risk or high-risk employees. So they either flat out won't bond to them or they make the bonding rates astronomically high. And obviously both of those things are going to deter potential employers from wanting to hire someone. So what the Department of Justice did was they got together with the Department of Labor to create this bond to bridge that 6-month gap. So for the first 6 months that they're on the job, post getting out of incarceration, the employer is eligible for this bond to guarantee that this individual, it's an insurance to cover any sort of acts of dishonesty. So should something go missing, product or piece of equipment, money out of the register or something like that, this insurance will cover that. And so it's another one of those things that, who's going to show up with the government's stamp of approval, guaranteeing that you're not going to be stealing from your employer. I don't have that sort of guarantee. So it's another one of those things to break down a lot of those artificial barriers that we seem to have put up when it comes to hiring returning citizens. And then we do a lot of education on the resident side too. So we talk to them about the difference between a conviction date and a release date. So a lot of background checks are qualified by an amount of time. So they'll have a question on an application that says, have you been convicted of a felony or misdemeanor in the last 5 years? So that's asking about your conviction date. That doesn't talk about the fact that you're still in custody, technically, if you're in our program, or if you just got out or anything like that. So if you only go back 5 years for this background check, but your conviction was 10 years ago, you can put no, because your conviction date was prior to the period in which they're asking. The problem with that is some employers will see that they'll look at the application and say, hey, you live at 2331 Manal Boulevard Northeast. I know that's the halfway house. Why are you lying to me? And really put the potential employee on the spot. And I think if you came at me kind of sideways like that, I'd be a little offended. So we try to talk to the our clients about, well, how do you address situations like that? You know, how do you really, and this is one of those situations where the general public, you know, it becomes very apparent that they watch too much TV, right? There's too much Law and Order and Blue Bloods and all that, where you commit the crime and be convicted all in 55 minutes and tie a little bow on it at the end. And that's just not real life. So I tell them, put as much distance between you and your conviction as possible. You know, maybe you committed your crime, then you had an arrest date, then you went to trial, then you had a conviction date, then you had a sentencing date, then you did your prison time, and now you're out, you know, and talk about all you've done since then. Maybe when you were in custody, you went and got your GED, you started going to AA groups. Now that you're out, you found a sponsor, you're looking to be a sponsor, you're volunteering, you know, talk about all the things, the positive things you've done since then. And in doing so, you're going to push as much distance between you and that. You know, if your conviction was 10, 15 years ago, like who hasn't changed in the last 10 or 15 years, right? None of us are the same person we were back then. So don't equate this person's past mistake with who they are today. So we try to talk on both sides, both with potential employers and with our clients, about how to have those sort of tough conversations. And just as kind of a added bonus for us, we're always looking for you know, people who are willing to help. We're always accepting interns if anybody's in school looking to complete an internship. Always looking for volunteers, so you can check us out there online, dismas.com. And here's my email. And you know, I just wanted to just kind of take this opportunity to say, like, we're meeting people at this really important juncture in their life, you know, and I think we can either, you know, give them this hand up that they need to move on, or, you know, if we don't, they're just going to go right back to that same cycle. And so, like I said, it's our belief that everybody has the capacity to change, and that we should, you know, at least give them that opportunity, right? I tell a lot of our new clients, you're going to get out of the program what you put into it. And so just kind of give them a little bit of motivation to, you know, move on, and let's leave this behind you, and tell me whatever you need to make that happen, and we'll connect you as best we can. A lot of times that's happened through people like Ann and Angel, a lot of our partners at all of our other community agencies. So I said, let me know if you guys want to volunteer, questions, comments, anything like that. Let me know. So let me take my share off here.
Thank you so much, Mitch. That was incredible. We've had such great speakers. Does anyone have any questions? I don't see any in the chat. But that's.
I saw there's one here about qualifying for services in Albuquerque.
Oh yeah, can a person let out of prison, out of date, qualify for these services in Albuquerque?
So we only get our clients from two like referral sources. They're either referred from the Bureau of Prisons, so they would have to currently be in an institution, or there's a federal probation officer would have to go to the court and refer them here, and the judge would have to sign off on that. So yeah, it's definitely not like a shelter, walk in, get service sort of place. And a lot of people see the charities sign on the front door, and they show up and they want a bed for the night and that sort of thing. So sorry, dude, you got to reserve your bed here a few years in advance. You know, it's not how it works. But yeah, there's no, like, we don't advertise. Like, I think a lot of people don't even know we exist because of that. Cause you know, we have that federal contract.
We have one hand up.
Jean Kelly, right? I'm gonna allow to talk.
Okay.
Hi, Jean. Do you have a question?
I have a distant relative that is due to get out of prison in Texas. If we were to bring her here, would she qualify for services?
So to be referred to our program, she would have to be on federal supervision, and that's a big like relocation request. You have to get the court involved in that. So they might not specifically qualify for my program, but you know, I think we're all pretty connected. If you could reach out to me or Ann or Angel or anybody, and we can definitely point you in the right direction to get connected with whatever services they need.
Okay. But I agree it's employment and, right. Right.
Thank you, Jean. Thank you so much, Mitch. Are there any other questions? Karen?
Yes, Mitch, I was curious how long you've been with Dismas and what your background is.
How much time you got? I'm just kidding. So I actually grew up in Roswell, graduated from Roswell High, I'm a Coyote, and I went to school at State, and I was going to school for journalism, and I actually double majored in journalism and geography. And when I was in college is when I started working at the center in Las Cruces, and I was a resident monitor, so it's kind of like our entry-level security type position. And there's only 2 of these programs in the state. There's, you know, us in Albuquerque and then in Las Cruces. So we basically serve the entire northern half of the state. Everybody who's getting out of prison, of federal prison, who needs reentry services is going to funnel through our program and then release either to Albuquerque, Gallup, Farmington, any of those places. So when I worked in Las Cruces, a lot of people who were from Roswell funneled through that program. And there used to be one of those things where you kind of joke, there's only 2 ways to leave Roswell. You either leave in handcuffs or you go to school. And so I met a lot of people who either knew of me or I knew one of their family members or something at our center in Las Cruces. And it was kind of weird, you know, like, hey man, didn't you pitch at Roswell High, or weren't you the drum major, or like, you know, hey, didn't you go to this church? And hey, I think you played ball with my brother, or hey, you did, you know, honor society with my cousin or something. And so we all grew up from down the street from each other, you know, like we were all in the same class, and it was kind of eye-opening, like, oh, well, that's what happened to that guy. You know, he kind of dropped off the face of the earth in high school. Well, you ended up in jail, and now you're here in prison. So it's kind of one of those like, well, hey, what are you doing here? And they said, you know, their responses were whatever criminal activity they were doing. And my response was, well, I got a full ride to State. I'm just working here to pay rent, you know? And it kind of got to the point where I saw the need for people to help. You know, it wasn't just these people will figure it out, you know, like, no, they really needed, you know, practitioners to really help point people in the right direction. So that's kind of how I got sucked in. So I did that resident monitor position for 3 years. And after I graduated, I was promoted to a case manager position. I did that for a year. And then I did social service work there at the program in Las Cruces for an additional 2 years. And then I got married in 2016. My wife's family's from up here, so I actually transferred to our center up here shortly thereafter. I did social service for another 2 years up here. And then I've actually been the program director here for the last 3.5 years. So I think that's about 11 years in total. So, and I'm 32. So I've been here as long as I've physically possibly could. You got to be 21 to start. So, yeah, I just kind of got sucked in, and now I can't imagine doing anything else with my life. So, yeah, that's a little bit of where I came from and my background and all that.
Thanks, Mitch. Does anyone else have any other questions? Okay, well, thank you so much. And did you drop your information in the chat, Mitch? Or do you want to do that?
Yeah, I'll do that now. I'll drop my the center phone number and my extension and email and all that good stuff.
Okay, thank you again to all of our speakers, but thank you so much, Mitch, for doing this great work. And now we have the Northwest Crime Report with Lieutenant Saladin. Are you with us, sir?
I am still with you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. And I wanted to commend the board or the council for your choice of presenters tonight. Very impressive, especially put together on short notice. and especially Angel, who I've had the pleasure of working with in the past. When I was at the academy, he addressed several of our cadet classes telling his story. And now that I'm over here in the Northwest, he's already made an impact, reaching out to some troubled youth who are making threats to some local high schools. So, I mean, he's very humble, so he won't tell you everything he does, but he's such a valuable resource for the city. So I'm glad we have him. And you put a lot of pressure on me too. Usually I'm the opening act, and now we've had 3 great presenters, and then there's me. Some crime numbers. I don't know if you remember from last month, I had given you kind of a 45-day report because we didn't have a meeting in December, and our auto thefts were at 102 for that 45 days. While they're still probably our highest property crimes category, we only had 25 in the last 30 days. So that's quite the decrease. So citywide, auto theft is still up, but it's on a big downward trend. Other than that, auto burglaries, we had 13, 11 residential burglaries, and 6 commercial burglaries. We had 36 aggravated assaults. Again, most of those were attributed to domestic violence. And the one violent category where we're up is, again, armed robbery. I spoke with the armed robbery unit, and they informed me that they are starting citywide TAC plans, and they're going to go from area command to area command, and they're partnering with the FBI to address the issue. As far as crime stats go, that's about it. All the property crimes are down, and we only have the one violent crime that is on the that is up. Little good news: our proactive response team did an operation 2 weekends ago at the Home Depots, both south and north in the area command, and they did it on a Friday and a Saturday. And between the 2 days, they arrested 15 repeat felony offenders. They recovered a stolen handgun. They recovered 3 stolen cars. Saved Home Depot about $5,000 in merchandise. So it was a really good operation, and that was led by the new PRT sergeant, Sergeant Chris Posha. So we're very, very thankful to have him. In addition, just this week, we started our new bid. And as promised, we are more staffed than we were at the end of the last bid. And my favorite part is I have 3 strong lieutenants. One of them's on here, Lieutenant Amy Sedler. We also got Lieutenant Jeff Abernathy, who will be our graveyard lieutenant. And then Lieutenant Brian Pitzer is getting promoted tomorrow, and he was our Team 3 sergeant for the last bid. So he is very familiar with the area command as well. And Lieutenant Sedler is also returning. So we are in very good hands moving forward this bid. Oh, I also have a recruiting update that Lieutenant Garcia sent me if we have time.
Yes, please do share.
So CNM Class 6 currently has 11 seated. They did lose 1 who opted to transfer to the Gallup Police Department. Cadet Class 125, which is the APD class, still has 30. I'll have to check when they're going to graduate. They have 2 seated for the next CNM class, which will take place in the fall. The 40th PSA class is coming up. Currently, they have 10 seated. They have a lateral class planned, but no start date yet. And they have about 11 applicants in the background process. And then the 126th cadet class for APD will start in May. And they currently have close to 200 in the process, 20 that have passed chief selection. That's about it for recruiting. Do I have any questions? Sorry, I know everyone's tired.
Karen.
You said we have an increase in staff after the bid. What's the total staff count?
Let me pull it.
Northwest?
Let me pull it up. I actually have it
Thank you.
semi-handy. There. Let's see. Sorry, it's awful dark in my office. I keep it that way, so things are harder to read. So we have 55 officers. We do have 8 sergeants, 3 lieutenants, and me. We also have our West Side Impact back in the Northwest Area Command, but we do have to share them with the Southwest. Another resource we gained was the organized crime unit. Really, it's not like, it's not the mafia. It's organized retail crime. And they were a huge help on that op also. They're also now based out of the Northwest Area Command, so we're already taking advantage of that. Like I said, they helped with that last stop, bringing in connections from the ATF and even the Attorney General's office for that day, or those 2 days. Well, and I do see a thank you for the motor officer on Unser. So anytime you have a speeding issue or a traffic concern, please send it in to either myself or Pete. And the motors unit and the traffic guys are being very proactive. I mean, they're out there writing sites every day. I hear them on the radio dozens of times every day. So if there's a pocket of the Northwest that you see as a problem for something like that they can assist with, let me know. And I'm in constant communication with their chain of command, and we'll get them out there. They do a lot of good work.
Sir, you also had a DUI checkpoint 2 weeks ago that netted a couple of in your Northwest Area Command. They're up at St. Pius, and they did get some DUIers that night.
Oh yeah,
which is good. Yeah.
Did you go out there and participate again?
Pardon me?
Did you go out and participate again?
Every time. Every time.
You get to see.
It's cold out there. Oh yeah, yeah, and I can tell you, your traffic is also working Montano, going across the bridge. Yeah, so, and that's great.
I've heard them on Montano. I've heard them on Coors. I've heard them on McMahon and Unser, Ladera. They're all over the place. I mean, they're hustling.
Yep. 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 Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yes, thank you. Are there any other questions, final thoughts? Thank you so much for staying on, Lieutenant Saladin.
Of course.
It's definitely a long night. Any old business? Going once, going twice? Okay. Any new business? Okay. Do I have any final comments?
Just a quick question. I know our format always in the past for years was that we would let the commander go first. I don't know if Lieutenant, is it better for you if you go first? Do you have other things, or do you always want to attend the entire meeting? Because I don't want to push it his day to a longer day if we can get him like an hour extra that he actually spends with his family or something. Just a suggestion and a question. If let the lieutenant answer.
I appreciate that, and yes, I do want to get home to my family. My wife is now on the 12-hour shift, so she didn't get home till about 45 minutes ago. Also, she works in the Southwest Area Command. But yeah, whatever works for the council. I mean, however each one pans out. I know sometimes the presenters need to go first to get out early. There may be times where I need to, and I'll reach out and let Kelly know. So it's flexible, whatever you need.
This was my oversight tonight. Ann needed to go. She said she only had a certain time, and Angel only had a certain amount of time. And next time we'll try to get you on a lot earlier.
Yeah, I'm like I said, Kelly. I'm flexible, and I appreciate you. So whatever you need.
Great job, thank you.
And big thanks to Kelly. He is literally the mastermind. This is all Kelly's doing, and it could not have gone better. So thank you so much, Kelly, for all of your work and planning and just being a little superstar.
I echo that. Kelly's been great, in my opinion, for the CPCs. He's always worked tremendously great with me, especially whenever I, temporarily chair. And just one other comment, Lieutenant. I'm glad you got Kelly Mays back to the west side.
I shared your sentiment with him, and he was honored, sir. And I do like Kelly Mays.
All right. Well, that's the first time I've been called a superstar in my life, so I guess that's a good time to get off.
All right.
Hey, make sure you show that recording, Kelly. Make sure you show that recording to your boss. Okay.
Show it to my boss and my grandkids also. When they get...
Yeah. Everybody.
All right. Have a good night.
Yep.
Night.
Good job. Thanks a lot. Night.